Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another Kingdom Hearts 2.8 video. Today we are once again on Dream Drop Distance HD, and today we're going to be taking a look at the reality shifts. Now, in case you guys don't know, reality shifts are these special abilities that are unique to each world you visit throughout Dream Drop Distance. So, for instance, basically, each world in Dream Drop Distance has its own special reality shift that is unique to that world. They're pretty useful abilities, honestly. In some tight situations, you will probably want to think about actually utilizing these because, of course, they are at your disposal. Now, similar to what we did with the Dream Eater minigames, we are going to be comparing the PlayStation 4 reality shifts to the Nintendo 3DS reality shifts. And the reason why we're doing that is the Nintendo 3DS relied heavily on touch controls for all of the reality shifts. So, of course, there has been a few changes made to the way that the reality shifts work on the PlayStation 4 version. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video and let's jump into it. So the first reality shift we're going to be taking a look at is the Slingshot reality shift that is found in Traverse Town. So the way it works on the 3DS is once you activated the Slingshot, you essentially just use the stylus on the touch screen to then position whereabouts you want the object to land. Now, of course, on the PlayStation 4 version, it is kind of the same. It's pretty much exactly the same. However, it does indeed ditch the touch controls. So the Slingshot reality shift does not utilize the touchpad on the PlayStation 4 controller, rather it simply just uses the analog stick, and then you press either X or circle to then fire your slingshot in the designated location. Now, the way that you activate reality shifts on the PlayStation 4 version is obviously different to that of the 3DS version. On the 3DS, you would simply just swipe down on the touch screen to then activate a reality shift, whereas on the PlayStation 4 version, you simply just press triangle and circle together when prompted to, of course, activate a reality shift. Next up is Holy Rope, or known as Faith Line on the English version of Dream Drop Distance. So this is the reality shift for La City des Cloches. Now, this reality shift in particular works very different to that of the PlayStation 4 version. So on the 3DS, essentially when you activated this, you would then connect these dots up together in the sense of whereabouts you want to create your own flow motion sort of grind rail in a sense. Now, obviously on the PlayStation 4 version, we don't have that extra screen to draw the path we want. So essentially when you activate this, there will kind of be these little blue lines indicating that that is a path you can then take or create to, of course, use flow motion on. Honestly, I think this works a lot better on the PlayStation 4 version because you're kind of like choosing the direction and path you want to go as you're actually using the flow motion itself, rather than just simply, you know, creating the path you want on the 3DS version. Next up is Code Break, and this is the reality shift from the grid. So the way that this worked on the 3DS version is when you activate this on an enemy, you'll then come to a screen where it's displaying a bunch of random letters. Now, every so often, a word will actually appear that's colored a different text, which gives you a bunch of different options and abilities to actually use against the enemy itself. So for instance, there might be switch target that will appear, and if you tap on that with the stylus, the enemy will then switch its focus to attacking other enemies. Now, this reality shift actually works pretty much exactly the same on the PlayStation 4 version. Obviously, there is no second screen to use touch controls for, and it does not utilize the touchpad. Rather, instead of actually selecting the special words that appear within the code with touch controls, they actually have a PlayStation symbol next to them. So say for instance we want to use Moving Spark, as you guys can see on screen right here. It has the circle button next to it. We simply just press circle and it will then activate Moving Spark on the Nightmare Spirit. Next up is Popping Bubble, or better known as Bubble Burst on the English version of Dream Drop Distance. This is the reality shift from the world Prankster's Paradise. So the way this works on the 3DS version is that once you activate this reality shift, you will then be brought to the second screen, the touch screen for the 3DS, and it will show the Nightmare Spirit being sort of like flying around all over the place. So the objective here is to blow as much bubbles as you can towards the Nightmare Spirit by using the touch screen. So once you do that, it will then activate a bigger bubble that Sora will then ride on, and with that bubble he can collect like different nightmare spirits he comes in contact with. Now on the PlayStation 4 version, you do not have to worry about going through the process of blowing all these different bubbles towards the nightmare spirits and then activate the bigger bubble, because of course the PlayStation 4 does not have a second screen. Rather, when you activate this reality shift on the PlayStation 4, it just automatically puts that nightmare spirit in the bubble. So it's a lot more straightforward and simplistic to actually utilize on the PlayStation 4 version. You're ditching the whole process of putting them in the bubble, so I think that's absolutely fantastic. Next up is Wonder Comic, and this is the reality shift found in the Country of Musketeers world. So on the 3DS version, when you activated this, essentially these little comic pictures would come up with an arrow indicating where you would have to swipe your stylus, and there'd be about 3 pictures that would appear in different directions, and then once of course you complete those directions, you would then activate a special ability. Now on the PlayStation 4 version, it's kind of similar but made more so simplistic. So when you activate it on the PlayStation 4 version, essentially 3 different pictures will come up. Now these are all giving you different options to activate different abilities. So for instance right here, as you guys can see, we've got 3 different pictures. The first one is an arrow pointing up, the second is an arrow pointing down, and the third is an arrow pointing to the left. This indicates and gives you kind of an option for 3 different abilities. So if of course we put the analog stick down, it will then activate the ability where the arrow is pointing down. It's more so simplistic, but refrains to using the same sort of idea. Next up is Phantasmic, or better known as Melody Catcher on the English version of Dream Drop Distance. This is the reality shift found in the Symphony of Sorcery world. So essentially the way this worked on the 3DS version is once you activate this, these musical sort of nodes will appear on the touchscreen, and you would simply just tap them in time with the beat of the music. Now it kind of works the same way on the PlayStation 4 version, however it's a lot more appealing visually. So as you guys can see, it's the same sort of idea. We're having to press different buttons in time with the music, and of course if you get enough of them correct, then of course the special ability will activate, these fireworks will come out, and it will deal a decent amount of damage. And lastly is Nightmare's End and Mirage Split, which is found in the world that never was. They are essentially the same reality shift, except they're kind of named different depending on whether you're playing as Riku or Sora. Still the point, same reality shift. So on the 3DS version, when you activate this, you essentially just use the stylus to cut through the lighter parts of the chains, as you guys can see on screen. Once you cut through all 4 of the chains, it will then activate a pretty damn cool ability which deals a decent amount of damage. Same sort of idea on the PlayStation 4 version, except of course no touch controls. Rather this time, as you guys can see on screen, we use the analog stick to control this keyblade, and you guys can see that the keyblade is emitting this kind of line. So you can move this up and down and just simply press circle or X to cut. And of course the goal here is to cut the lighter parts of the chains in order to break them. And that is it guys, that is all of the reality shift abilities found in Dream Drop Distance. As you guys can see, the PlayStation 4 version still maintains the same idea as the reality shifts found in the 3DS. However, of course, the way that they're kind of utilized is a little bit different due to the fact that the PlayStation 4 ditches a lot of the different touch mechanics that the 3DS once used. However guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. It'd be super cool if you guys could leave a like on this video, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.